Hey guys, how you doing? Polyheart here, and I am working on a book. First, what I want to do, because I have a different computer that I've been working with, I'm going to go to YouTube and look at some colors because wow, like a sunburn. Is that is that what's going on with my face? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Let me go to my channel and look at myself in the mirror of the interwebs. And yeah, I'm very red in the face. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And that's okay, because we are going to do something that we have not done before in a long time. Haven't I mean, I've done it before, but it has been a minute and a half since I went live and talked to anybody. Um, my recent attempt at writing has been in the vein of self help, self improvement, and pretty interesting. Um, I am writing a book called Let Go of Being Stupid and Gain Wisdom to Change Your Future. That's a heady title. It's actually the title and subtitle. Let Go of Being Stupid. It's the title. Gain Wisdom to Change Your Future. Subtitle. The subtitle of a self help book specifically. And I'm going to be drinking coconut water while we talk. Is self help books. Title is to show attention and what the main topic is. Subtitle is to draw attention to the action towards that title or a step of action. Ooh, spicy. So self help books are a dime a dozen, honestly. And you're thinking, well, why did you write one then, buddy? Because I like to write. And I have learned things in my own life that can help people in their lives that other authors haven't talked about yet. Um, what I think it will be is kind of a culmination of all the things that I've ever read, plus the experiences that I've gone through, and kind of giving the idea of this is how I did it. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that it's the way. It just means it's a way. Um, I'm 50 something years old, and it is the last day of 2024. And I felt like, well, you know what? Other people haven't done the things that I've done, and they haven't learned the things that I've learned. So if I can help someone, I should help someone, right? Um, my good friend Keith Kalish from that I met at YMCA Camp Tecumseh used to say, well, I don't really feel like I'm supposed to have children of my own, so I'm just going to be a dad to every child. I was like, that's genius. So that's kind of what I'm doing with this. I'm going to just kind of like give my information to people who need it and who want it. We are looking at right around 300-page book. 300-page book, interesting, big, and I think it's going to be worth every penny. I'm going to read to you the the beginning of the book. You have what's called white matter, front matter. Front matter usually have like the copyright, usually have the about the author, praise for other works, etc. Other works by, and I've listed some of my bigger ones. Since I've written 80 books, not all of them really pertain to this work. The white matter, copyright contained, copyright by me, blah blah blah. The ISBN 9781955399517. If you're interested, I don't think it's really no because I haven't actually released it yet. It's coming soon on the ISBN main site Bowker, so I don't think it'll be searchable yet by the ISBN. But I'm going to read something that I wrote on November the 11th. Excuse me while I readjust my cushion. November the 11th. Oh, that's better. Did I shrink? Shrink. 11 11 11 11 11 2024. What is this book? And this is subject to rewrite. So if it's crazy, just hear me out. The U.S. Department of Education estimates that a child from kindergarten to 12th grade will spend up to $1,000 a year on textbooks, anywhere from $40 to $70 a book. That's actually kind of spicy. Not only that, a new college textbook costs in the college bookstore might even run you around $170. You get the book because you're required to buy it and take the first day of class. You take it there. The professor doesn't even talk about the book. He talks about something else entirely. Why did you buy the book in the first place if you're not even going to look at it? What if I told you that this book might just be more important to your life than any other book from an accredited institution of higher learning combined? What if I told you this book is a textbook for the little-known subject as called life? What if I told you the thing you learn in this book can't be taught at any school, and that some people who learn these things contained inside have spent over 100 million to learn over the course of 50 years, which is true, because I've just kind of stolen a bit from here and stolen a bit from there and borrowed from here and borrowed from there. But I give my sources all their just accreditations. There's a lot. As a matter of fact, at the very bottom, I don't even try to list all my sources by topic and by item. I just put the entire book. Look, this is this book. So it's actually not even just a reading book requirement list for knowing the things that are in this book. It's also a suggested reading list as well. So that is the gist of this book. This book is like a how-to on life, basically. It is 7 groupings, 7 total groupings. So I have 10 chapters on each group, which is interesting. The table of contents, I've yet to finish because my page numbers keep changing. Then I have Forward by J.B. Farrell, yet to be released to me. The preface is basically what we're going to be talking about now. And then I have the acknowledgments, and then I have the editing team contributors, Kim Gillum, Brent Stephen Allen, Jennifer Hart, J.B. Farrell, and several others have introduced themselves inside the book, and they've given some little tidbits about what they've learned in life. I've taken some quotes, and throughout the book, we've put in their quotes. Then I have an introduction, and then I have the introduction to the book. So that's a lot of front matter. Let me kind of go through the preface here real quick. I told you I would, and I'm going to lie to you. It's that time again where I go outside and walk the dog. I get his mind ready by telling him what we're doing. Then I get his body ready by getting his leash on. Then I open the door and we head on out. On our usual route, we walk by the dumpster bin where the neighborhood pitches their collected trash. I'm not trying to slow down by the area because I know what's going to happen. Oh, there it is. He found a bone. The one was in a trash bag inside the bin yesterday afternoon. Sometime during last night, neighborhood cats got into the bag, pulled out the bone, and threw it on the ground. Of course, the dog is going to grab it up and start chomping away happily. But it's a beef bone. Uh-oh. Oddly, the dog's become allergic to beef in his old age. Strange, but true. So, of course, he can't have this treat. He'll break out in weird bumps and start gnawing his fur off. In the middle of the night. So frustrating. But at least we figured out the source of the bumps and can plan accordingly. So, no beef for you, dog. Now, I've got a decision to make. There's not always beef bones that are lying around the trash, but why do I walk by the area in the first place? Why not ease the shortcuts, or why use the ease of shortcuts or route as an excuse to have to fight this battle? I think I need to rewrite that. Shouldn't I just not walk by that area? Beef bones aren't always being laying about here and there willy-nilly, but why take that gamble? Wouldn't it be wiser to not have to fight this battle with the dog and take the precious, oh-so-tasty bone away? Shouldn't I just let go of being stupid and choose another route? But why do I do it? Habit, ease, comfort, desire to gamble, to show the dog who's boss, or is it merely habitual complacency? Perhaps a little bit of all of them. I've gotten so complacent by the way things are doing today that I've ceased to try to live a better life. I've given up on working mentally to become a wiser worker. Instead, I gladly volunteer my blood, sweat, and tears in laziness. I've got to stop this. There has to be a better way. I must change, I must grow, I must learn and practice the things I've come to take for granted. But how? All my life, I've done what I know to live, right? Haven't I? How much of what I'm doing now is just habit? How much is tradition? How much is utter foolishness? How much is laziness? Sure, I could turn over a new leaf, and here we are. At the end of the year, people do that all the time. I'm going to make a New Year's resolution. No, you're not. Well, you might, but are you going to stick with it? No. It seems like I have done that every year, but I only make it to February. If I really want to admit it, if I really want to come clean with myself and fess up to the slob of who I really am, then I've got to stop lying about what is really in charge of me. What is really going on? Am I in charge of me, or is sloth in charge of me? Is gluttony in charge of me? Am I truly the master of my own domain, or is it my dumb habits? I mean, the bad things I don't really do they hurt me so much? They can't hurt me that much, can they? Do the things that I do really hurt me that much? Yes. I promise myself here a little honesty. There's things I can do right now to let go of dying quicker, because that's what I'm really doing when I choose the easy path instead of the right path. I'm dying quicker, getting poorer quicker. My life is flashing before my eyes and I'm missing it. Now is the time. Taking a stand. No more being average. I'm above that. No more of life happening to me. No more of life being something that happens to me. I'm going to happen to life. I'm going to let go of being stupid. So the goal on the title, Let Go of Being Stupid and Gain Wisdom for daily to increase your daily life, is that there's a verse in Proverbs 8:5, I think it is. Hold on, I wrote it down up here. Proverbs 8:5, yeah. Take heed unto knowledge, O you ignorant. Be wise in your heart, O you fools. So wisdom herself in the book of Proverbs in the Bible is talking to us about how to let go. Because when you're grabbing something, you got it with your hand. And you have to, if you want wisdom, you can try this. It's just going to rip you apart. You've got to let go of being stupid and then grasp wisdom to take you to a better place. Introduction. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right, Henry Ford said. Henry Ford didn't think he could until he thought he could. He failed with his first two businesses, union issues, design flaws, bad partners. He seemed doomed for failure. But the third time, he made it. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently, he said. Good old Henry could have blamed the unions, could have blamed the designs, could have blamed his partners. Did he? Nope. He pursued the idea that he would do the thing, and he did. He embraced success and got it. Whatever you're embracing is winning. If you chase your failures around the room, you're going to catch them. They are so easy to catch. Are you a victim or a victor? Henry was a victor, never a victim. You're holding this book in your hands, and already I can smell the smoke through it. It's either a fire in your logic spinning your wheels at good old Henry, or it's the fire of indignation at how I'm not in your shoes and I can never understand why you're in the place you're in. To be honest, you're either going to leave this book, love this book. You're going to leave it or love it. You could use it as a bookshelf to put up on your wall and make yourself look smart with all the other books that are covering wisdom, the topic of wisdom. Or you're going to put it down at the bottom of a box in a lonely storage spot until your granddaughter finds it and asks you why you never finished it. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Either this book will prove to be a tome of vast wealth for your emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial and personal life, or it will be a complete waste of money. Oh, but Polly, you don't understand. I was born into an unstable financial home. I was born with an incurable disease. My mother was a control freak. My dad lost his job and started to drink. My brother didn't understand me. My neighborhood was weird. I was malnourished. I had no friends. I changed schools a lot. Guess what? Those things are about me. I'm talking about myself. Yes, all those things have resolved themselves in my life, but those were about me. My brother loves me now. My dad quit drinking a long time ago, but I still have that disease. I still have emotional and physical scars, so I still have the memories of all those things. They happened. I didn't make them up. And yet, what are you doing right now? Reading a book I wrote. How is an unstable, incurable, controlled, hated, malnourished, mischievous, and miseducated guy like myself trying to teach you anything? Because whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Earl Nightingale, in a speech, The Strangest Secret, latched onto this and gave me many powerful examples, and one himself. He stated, quote, "It stands to reason that a person who is thinking about a concrete and worthwhile goal is going to reach it, because that's what he's thinking about, and we become what we think about. Conversely, the man who has no goal, who doesn't know where he is going, and whose thoughts must therefore be thoughts of confusion, anxiety, fear, and worry, becomes what he thinks about. His life becomes one of frustration, fear, anxiety, and worry. And if he thinks about nothing, he becomes nothing." Marcus Aurelius said it like this: "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." James Allen, in his book As a Man Thinketh, says it this way: "As he thinks, so he is. As he continues to think, so he remains." In the words of Claude Bristol, What you believe yourself to be, you are. Ralph Waldo Emerson put it this way: a man is what he thinks about all day long. Norman Vincent Peale said, if you think in negative terms, you'll get negative results. If you think in positive terms, you get positive results. This is a simple fact, which is the basis of an astonishing law of prosperity and success. In 3 words, believe and succeed. The most powerful quote, I believe, comes from Jesus in Matthew 8:13. As you believe, so it is done for you. Now, in the Greek language, the phrase from Yeshua, Jesus, is these 3 powerful words: hos epistos genetheo. I appreciate the Latin translation of these 3 words: ego natus sum fidelis, which translates back to English as I was a born believer. You could also say, pardon my slaughtering of Greek and Latin, credere est facere, which means to believe is to do. In the story, the Roman centurion, in the story of Jesus and the Roman centurion believed that Yeshua, someone that's not calling him Yeshua from now on in the book, affirmed that it was done, just as he had believed. Whether you believe to be true will be done for us. What you believe to be true will be done for you. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I'll tell you a story. An old farmer stared at the folks who had just come down the road. A man got out the car and approached him. We're thinking of moving, he said. What kind of people live around here? The man asked the farmer. Well, what kind of people live around where you came from? The farmer asked him. Oh, a bunch of low-life, good-for-nothing slobs, the man spat angrily. Well, the farmer said, that's the kind of folks you'll find around here. The man got back into his car and left. Later, another car came down the road, and another man got out and talked to the farmer. He approached him. Hey, we're thinking about moving. What kind of people live around here? The farmer eyed him and asked, well, what kind of folk live around where you live now? The man smiled. Oh, they're kind, and not a bunch of hard-working people. The farmer smiled back. Well, that's the kind of folks you'll find around here. The farmer smiled and waved at them as they drove away. You get it? Of course you do. You're smart. Let me tell you another story. The old Cherokee man looked down at the hills to the setting sun after a long day with his tribe and family. The fire from the celebrations burned low and smoky. His grandson, about 5 years old, came up to him, sat down beside him, and asked him a question. Grandpa, why do people fight? It is because of the wolves in their chest, Grandpa said solemnly. The boy jumped up in fear. People have wolves in their chest? The grandfather nodded solemnly. All men do. The young man's eyes grew wide. You have wolves too? I do. There is a white wolf and a black wolf. The black wolf is filled with anger, envy, jealousy, greed, and pride. The white wolf is full of hope, peace, faith, forgiveness, and love. They are forever in battle. The young boy sat very still for a long time. Slowly, he stood up and looked his grandfather face to face. Grandfather? The boy asked. Which wolf will win? Grandfather smiled and tapped the boy lightly on the chest. That is easy, he said. The one wolf you feed the most. The young boy leaned over to his grandfather, full of trust and love, as the first stars appeared on the horizon. Well, which wolf will win? The one you feed the most will win. Feed the white wolf, starve the black wolf. You're going to find out that whatever you set your mind on, or set your mind against, you'll have the outcome you've set your mind towards. No matter your race, color, creed, religion, upbringing, financial situation, gender, or any non-determining factor, whatever you choose is what you will get. You might think that's the largest bundle of horse hockey you've ever heard of. Or you might think that's one of the most astounding concepts you've ever come across. Either way, you're right. That was the introduction to this book. And next comes a very strange thing because of the way that I formatted the book. Now, I'm going to tell you what the format is, and then I'll read you a little bit of the introduction to the book format. So, Let Go of Being Stupid is a collection. Besides the front matter and a little bit of back matter, there's inside 70 total stories, 10 stories in each of the 7 groupings. The 7 groupings I've decided to base it upon is the ancient, there's a little bug on my screen, is the ancient Judeo methodology of the 7 Ruach HaKodesh candlesticks. Now, in the book of Isaiah and also John the Revelator in the book of Revelation talks about the 7 different groupings of wisdom. And wisdom comes in 7 forms of the Holy Spirit. That's what the Christians call it. So Christians call him the Holy Spirit, Jews call him Ruach HaKodesh, but there are 7 different colors of the rainbow, Goy Chi Biv. So each of the 7 candlesticks parts, and if you look at not a menorah on Hanukkah, but if you look at a menorah in a regular Jewish household, you find 7 candles. And the middle candle, and they each branch out. So there's a primary candle, and there's 6 three on each side. The first one, it comes from the spirit of, and it gives the spirit of something or other. So red represents our Roy G. Biv, and so Roy G. Biv is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then indigo, and then violet. So red is the first candlestick, which is the spirit of Yahuwah or God. I choose to use the ancient Judeo words instead of Christianese in this book. That comes from just something that I'm going through at the time, and it doesn't really matter. Good philosophy, when it's based on an external understanding of where that person's mindset is, like I can learn from Buddha, I can learn from the Bhagavad Gita, I can learn from the Marcus Aurelius, I can learn from Jesus, or I can learn from King David. So my mindset is inside of this thing of ancient Judaism, and then from ancient Judaism comes Islam, comes Christianity, comes Catholicism. All these things came out of it. So I just went as far back as I could to the base root of most good philosophy and started from there and built outwards. So you get it. So the seven spirits of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. Red is the spirit of Yahweh. Red, and I give it three little words to kind of represent what the message is, the themata of that part of the book. Red is the read, repeat, remember. So it's basically the spirit of Yahweh is going to cover a lot of the versions of how God can help you with your life. Now, here's what I tell a lot of people who want to pick up the book. I'm going to say, don't start with red, start with yellow. And that comes in the second way you can read this book. First way you read it is straight through. The second is by theme. You can read story number one in red, and red deals with maybe, let's say, red, orange, and yellow. So if you want to start with yellow, later on, if you want to find the red part of that story, you can go back to a linked. I'm going to plan on having the paper on the edge of the bleed side be like a little color separator so that you can just flip through and find that area. Not sure how it's going to work in the physical manifestation of the book, but the iteration that's going to come with the audiobook will be tricky too. But the cool thing is, through the interwebs, the wonderful interweb technology we have, we can easily have hyperlinks. So it's going to be really easy with that, but we'll figure that out as it comes. Okay. Orange is the spirit of wisdom. O stands for others over outcome. Yellow is the spirit of understanding. Y stands for yield yesterday's you. So green is the spirit of strategy. G stands for getting greater goals. Blue, the spirit of willpower. B stands for belief begets behavior. Indigo is the spirit of knowledge. It's I. So I stands for invent investment outcomes. Sorry, incomes. Invent investment incomes. V, the spirit of honor. V stands for victorious vocation velocity. So red, dealing with your spiritual self. O deals with others. Y deals with how you can shed yourself from yesterday and go towards tomorrow. G is finding out how tomorrow can become better and how you can achieve that. What do you need to do to get there? That's G. So B, spirit of willpower, belief begets behavior. So it deals with your habits, what you're doing right now that might set you away from getting to the G. I, invent investment incomes. I is basically about how money works, how you work with money, how money works around you. And V is basically your legacy. What will you do? Your victorious vocation velocity. So are you your work, or are you your job, or is your job part of your work, or is your work part of you? How does that all fit together? And that's what it stands for. So again, if I have, let's say, chapter 22, which would be the second one in orange. The second one in orange. So if that deals with OGV, so it would be others over outcome, getting greater goals, in victorious vocation velocity. Then if you read that one, you could read straight through, but if you wanted to just look at this one and see how this connects with the other ones, like let's say how others over outcome connects with victorious vocation velocity, how O connects with V, you could just flip there, turn to page this. Okay, bam, I'm done. So I want to read that and then read that, and I can hop around the book. So the second way you can read the book is probably the most interesting, and it's going to be very helpful for those who want to skip the spiritual section. I do recommend you read the spiritual section, but skipping that in order to Start wherever you want. So literally, you can pick up any page in the book and you can begin there. I'm going to read the sections, the groupings of sections, and let's start with yellow. Yellow is the spirit of understanding. Yield yesterday's you. Yerk it, yoink it, let it float downstream and bid it farewell. Only through the understanding of the spirit of Yahweh can you be destined to become what you're meant to be. Oh, you can determine what you want, but without understanding, you're lost. You can spin the wheel around 1,000 miles an hour, but without understanding, you'll fail every time. Mission is key. Green, spirit of strategy or counsel. The mind to the mission. Many have laid plans to do this or that, but without that follow through, they lose. They never finish strong. They can have the best architect or the best plans, but if there's no workers, the site remains uninhabited. Getting greater goals is the feel of the importance of this. It's not about donating to charity, it's about the law of sowing and reaping. What farmer builds a silo if he doesn't have any produce? Who opens a bank account with a zero balance? To do the thing, you must know you will do the thing and be able to do the thing. It's the mission. Blue. Blue is the spirit of willpower, might, strength, what you continually do again and again, over and over. Its habit. Blue is belief begets behavior, and it's when your dad told you to look both ways before crossing, and now you do it every time. Or you don't do it because you believe that now willpower is entered into your life, and over time you might get hit by a car if you discontinue that good habit. Belief begets behavior. What you really believe comes true. What you think will happen will probably happen because you've made it happen by your actions. So just what do you believe? I. Invent investment outcomes. Indigo, the spirit of knowledge, the things you know. The Hebrew word is dana, and it's just that, raw facts. All the trivial and stock picks and the stats of the racehorse, of the ball player, of the crypto, everything you need to know about becoming richer, happier, more productive in today's modern age, called the fourth revolution, industrial revolution maybe, it's almost everything. However, just because something is true doesn't mean it's truth. All truth is true, but not all things that are true are truth. There's a major difference and division, and the farther and further you go, the clearer the truth becomes. V. Violet is a spirit of honor or reverence, archaically fear. It's not a bad thing to have a fear of a tornado or a snake, right? Rational fear is a good thing. It's healthy. Knowing the thing can and will hurt you, should you allow it, is not anxiety. That's irrational fear of something that you could happen, but most likely won't happen. Fear is anticipation of the awesome. Anxiety is a projection of the instability. Most importantly, for this book, is the idea that violet means victorious vocational velocity, not our job, our true calling, our density. You are my density. Our destiny, our legacy, the honor we leave behind towards those who bear our name. The more we are reverent towards the God who made us, the closer we get to the mark of the calling who is one to be called his child. Now you see that God is all throughout the entire book, and that's okay, because that's just from my own perceived paradigm. You can approach this book and read the book and know, oh, that's how he sees it, but you can still learn something, right? Like I'm still going to learn from a Sufi who practices Islam, who is not in my own religion, but he has a really good idea about something. I need to practice that. Like the Tao. There's a lot of good stuff in every Tao. There's a lot of good stuff in Sun Tzu. There's a lot of good stuff like the Art of War. Miyamoto Musashi, the Book of the Five Rings. There's great stuff in there. The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli, great stuff in there. Not everything I'm going to read by Machiavelli I'm going to practice, because I'm not a prince and I'm not an evil prince, and I don't live in, medieval Europe. But I'm still going to say, oh, that's a good idea. So let's go over red and orange, because we skipped those at the beginning, starting with yellow. So red is, in this book, read, repeat, remember. Red deals with the things we should put first. When Yeshua was asked what the greatest commandment was, he said to love Yahweh. That's what it is. That's why it's first. Interestingly, this is the only commandment to Israel where they're supposed to all day long. When you get up and you lie down, repeat, remember. Read, repeat, remember is what he's asking us to do. We can't have any wisdom without him first. So Yahweh is the crux of all things we'll ever know. Omniscient is a Latin word meaning all science. History is his story. That's red. Orange is wisdom. Proverbs chapter 8 depicts wisdom as a righteous woman crying out in the streets for all who will listen. If you can have one aspect remaining to your person, let it be wisdom. When asked for anything, he can imagine Solomon asked for wisdom. It pleased Yahweh so much that he did not only give him wisdom, but fame and wealth as well. Wisdom is the right hand of Yahweh. He who finds her finds life. Okay, I'm going to talk to my cat real quick. Okay, go away, Toasty. Go Go away. My cat toaster appliance is trying to crawl up on my lap because he hears me talking. I'll tell you, I love that cat, but he is just turned 12 tomorrow, I think. Wee. What an old cat. Goodness sakes, I don't know about this cat. My wife took him to the vet one time and it cost $1,200, so I was joking with her about our $1,200 cat. I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I can do a quick control find here. What should I talk to you about? I know. Price's Law and the Pareto Principle. Now this is victorious vocational velocity, so it's violet. The spirit of honor, this is V1. Price's Law and the Pareto Principle. Now, for those of you who don't know what Pareto's Principle or Price's Law is, that's okay. I will tell you what it is as we speak, as we go through this. So, one of my favorites, and I wanted to put it like, but you can't put everything as the first, right? Because then there's no order. There's no way to get through it. So, but it's the first inside of V. Remember, V is victorious vocational velocity. So, once you understand how money works and where money comes from, you can get more money. And money's not bad. And that's the funny thing. I think one of my favorite authors, Ayn Rand in the book The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged. It was Atlas Shrugged. There's a man named Francisco de Antonia. Francisco is at a party, and Francisco is giving a speech. My air conditioner just kicked on. I'm sorry if this is going to interrupt. Let's do this. Let's see if that works. I don't know if it's going to help or not. We'll find out. So Francisco is at, and if you don't know anything about the book, it's okay. This is just an aside, one of the asides that Ayn wanted to preach to us about money. Francisco gets up there and he says, so you've heard that the love of money is the root of all evil. Or no, he says, you've heard that money is the root of all evil. And he starts talking about how money is the root of all evil. And I think in the Christian world, a lot of the people get it confused because it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Not every evil, every single solitary evil, because if that was true, then the Satan in the garden, the snake would have tried to trick Eve with money. He didn't. He tricked her with the invention of the first religion, which is hedonism, which is putting yourself above God. So Satan said, are you sure? And that's interesting, and it's a whole other discussion because he got her focusing away, which actually applies to the Pareto Principle and Price's Law. He got her focusing away from the 99.9999% that she had and the 0.0001% that she didn't have, which was just one tree. Every other tree in the entire world, in the garden, I should say, she could eat. Every one. Everything. From apricots all the way down to yams. I don't know. The zebra fruits, is there any? I don't even know what would start with Z. XYZ. Yeah. I don't know. Yams. Delicious yams. She could eat them. But she couldn't eat from this one fruit. So Satan got her tricked into that, thinking about the lack instead of the abundance. So the Pareto Principle is the old 80-20 rule. Like whatever it is in my life, whatever it is in the business or anything to do with anything else, 80% of it and 20% of it, there's usually the split. Like 80% of this juice, 20% is the metal that contains the juice. And without the metal, we'd have no juice. Without the juice, we could have the metal. But this is actually an allusion to a reversal of the 80-20 rule. Usually it's the opposite. In my life, 80% of the things I don't, 80% of the things that I do don't create wealth. 20% of the things that I do create wealth. Let me just read this. It gets good. It's really good. This is chapter V1 inside of V. Price's Law has become one of my new favorite laws to understand, and the production of output in any system. It's very familiar, very similar to the Pareto Principle, but it's more dynamic. Let me first start with the Pareto Principle. It's a small portion of the Pareto front created to illustrate economic solutions inside of certain systems. Basically, it states that 80% of all consequences come from 20% of all the causes. Basically, that's the equation. You can find it at work, at home, on the road, at the store, everywhere. If you estimate that most systems work, like economics in France, then you're assuming a lot. But the law is transferable to most things outside of economics in France. 20% of great breakthroughs happen, and 80% of group meetings. Meanwhile, 80% of great discoveries happen in the rare 20% of productivity time of great meetings. Let's talk about Mountain Dew. Does anyone know what Mountain Dew is? Yes. How about Diet Mountain Dew? Yes. Probably you've heard of those things. Mountain Dew Zero. Probably obviously focus on the first two, Mountain Dew and Diet Mountain Dew. They're the staple. How about Mountain Dew Code Red or Mountain Dew Livewire? Mountain Dew Baja Blast? You've probably heard of them as well. They're around, but not as popular as the originals. However, time for a challenge. How about Mountain Dew Kickstart Raspberry Citrus? Mountain Dew Berry Blitz Rise? Or the ill-fated Mountain Dew Sport? Or Mountain Dew Game Fuel Citrus Cherry? Or the 100 other flavors that have come and gone? Probably not the last ones, huh? That's the 80-20 rule right there. 20% of total Mountain Dew products fill 80% of the money. 80% of total Mountain Dew products line 20% of the money. You don't believe me yet? All right, I'll do the same thing with lawn care. 80% of the total average lawn is mowed by the same man, as the other 20% is mowed by another man. One guy on a zero-turn tractor, the other guy with a string trimmer. They're both mowing the whole lawn, but one man does the majority of the work, faster, quicker, cheaper, stronger, because it's in more accessible areas. It's just the way the rule is set up. It's applicable to most things if viewed with the right lens. 80% of toothpaste goes in the brush, 20% thrown out, either by accident or you can't get it out of the tube. 80% of the cake is frosting, 20% is too much frosting. Qdoba is better than Chipotle 80% of the time, and the opposite is true 20% of the time. 20% of movies from the 1990s represent 80% of the nostalgic callback to popular memes today. I got that last one from my wife. Now I'm fixing to blow your mind because it's about to get all mathematical up in here. Price's Law, compared to the Pareto principle, says that half of the publications come from the square root of all its contributors. He was measuring bibliometrics, books. He was talking about scientific literature, but the law is transferable to other places. Let me help you understand it. If I have 4 tomato plants, half the production will come to the square root of that total. Square root of 4 is 2, right? So it's 2 of 4, the same number. Let's try 9. Half of the total production of 9 plants will come from the square root. So that's 3. So you have 9 total tomato plants. 3 produce half. The other 6 are also producing half. All right, cool. Let's try 25. Half of the total comes from that, which is 5. That's 20% of the total, creating 50% of the total volume. If the total volume is 100, that means 5 of them make 50. That's 10 each. Aha, the other 20 make 50. That's 2.5 each. Quadruple the volume. How about 10,000? 100 is the square root. Out of 10,000 workers, only 100 will be able to rise and meet the challenge of volume of half of the output. That's insane. So, viewing Price's Law and Pareto principle, you need to become more of what you're doing. Pretty interesting. One of my first mentors, Keith Wheeler, was a stand-up guy. Of all the people I've ever met, this side of heaven, he's the one man who's seen the closest representation of Yeshua to me. He's the man most like Jesus I've ever seen. He was in charge of my third-year Bible school, though I don't know if we were there for him or he was there for us, really, in hindsight. But he had been working for a mega huge missions organization that took teenagers all around the world preaching the gospel through mime and dance. Pretty interesting career. His personal calling was even more counter to a normal job than any person I've ever met. He carries a cross around the world. And when I say carry a cross, I really mean an actual cross. Carrying a cross is a reference to Yeshua when he told his disciples, if you want to follow me, let him deny himself and pick up his cross and follow me. Well, Keith does it literally. He has a large wooden cross with a wheel that he hoists on his shoulder and visits other countries. And he told me one day when he goes to airports, he puts it in a ski bag and travel along. Hey, what's that? Is that for sports? He's like, well, kind of. It's sporting. So, Keith is a living, breathing example of Price's Law. I recall watching a video of Penn Jillette of Penn & Teller once, that if a Christian were really serious about their belief, they would run through the streets telling everyone about the gospel. Well, Keith Wheeler actually does this. He walks in war-torn streets all over the world and preaches the gospel to people he meets. He walks in slums, disaster areas, war zones. He walks by simply taking the word for what it meant. Of over the 15,000 churches where I live in Georgia, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that that it's the Keith Wheelers of the world and not the churches that are showing people the grace and truth that the Bible teaches. It's people like Keith that prove Price's Law and Pareto principle. You should go check out Keith at kw.org, kw.org. He's quite a memorable soil to sow into should you feel so inclined. And he's a really cool guy, too. In the book, 10x is easier than 2x, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy discuss the secret to gaining momentum in your life. If you look at all the work around you that you trade your time for and think, I need to double my output. How could I double my output? You want to make double the money? You think if you trade your time for money, you need to double the output. You might go a little insane. However, if you only did the 20% of the activities that produce the actual result that create 80% of your income, you get 10x your output. It's hard to do, but you have to let go of the spare change and only go for the large bills. If you want to gain 10,000 increase instead of 200%, that's rough. You have to be vicious with your spare time and your leisure activities. Stop the stupidity. Let go of it and grasp the reality that wasted time is killing your wallet and your mind. Now, it's the same dynamics as the beta region paradox. The beta region paradox says that when things are fine, there's no need for action. Like if you move into a house and it's just got a little bit of mold, you're okay with it. If it's just a tiny bit of mold, right? So things are okay at this level, and then they reach this level, and this is the beta region, right? You're gonna be clean up a little bit, but then it's in this area, you'll kind of clean a little bit, and there's somewhere in each person's life they have a tipping point where if you cross this beta region and go to the zeta region, or the kappa region, Charlie region, ABC, the C region, you could say to yourself, that's it, I'm going to change this whole paradigm. So what is the beta region paradox is that people are comfortable with a little bit of filth, but in their own head they see the tipping point, and somewhere above that tipping point they are not okay with it. So when things are fine, there's no need for action. When things are all right but not fine, we can tolerate it. But somewhere there's a point where you're pushed into action, and that is way worse than the toleration point. So it's almost like we're self-defeating in that way. When we allow the toleration to become such a larger area than what it actually should be. I visited friends when I was a child, and my parents didn't know this, otherwise I wouldn't have been allowed to stay there, but they had the bathtub was filled with dishes from the sink. And they just buy new dishes and just put them in the bathtub. And so you couldn't shower, you couldn't bathe there. And the floor, we were slick on the floor. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and there were cockroaches all over me. And I freaked out a little bit. And I think their mother came out and sprayed a little bit, and then we went back to sleep. Because I was a child. I was like, oh, it's a bug. That's okay. But when my parents came to pick me up in the morning and they saw the horrific state of this pigsty, they kind of flipped out a little bit and gave the other adults a yelling at. Anyway. The toleration point was very different for me than my parents, than these people that were staying out. It was aggravatingly, horrifyingly terrifying. It was beyond. It was just beyond. I can't even imagine. I'm not a clean freak, but at the same time, my tolerance point is way down here for untidiness. I have a lot of clutter, but I'll clean up the clutter. I'll move all the clutter around and clean the clutter. Anyway, just a difference in the mindset. Some people have a high tolerance for trash. Learn to let go of being stupid and not have that tolerance. So just like Keith Wheeler, getting back to the text, just like Keith Wheeler versus Bishop, Reverend, Pastor, so-and-so, First Gospel Holiness Church, whatever, all those churches in Georgia versus the one guy from Oklahoma, who does more with their faith? Do you really want to have a dollar value impact you? Or do you want to pay off the church building parking lot? Do you want to, everything you give, like if you put $1 into some ministry somewhere, do you want it to go towards this guy who's walking this cross around the world? Or do you want it to use it to pay off the church parking lot, right? Or to buy the pastor a new Cadillac? I'm definitely paraphrasing my text here. Anyway, I'll tell you what, I'm not asking for money. I actually make an anti-plea. Look, I'm really not asking for money. I'm asking you to evaluate what you do with your money. Are you investing your money in a way to improve your spiritual realm? What about your financial return? What soil are you sowing into? Is it good soil? And while you're at it, isn't it a good time to unplug your TV and write your own book? Now, I addressed that a couple of times in the text about writing your own book, which I think is interesting. And I'm going to give you just a personal example of something I did. And I think I picked it up as I was writing the book, or it came to me as I was thinking about writing this part of the book. And that's about taxes, and it's about groceries, and it's about creation of an environment to where I don't have to pay as many taxes. Now, a certain president at one time recently said it's our patriotic duty to pay taxes, and I think that he doesn't know his history, because it's a patriotic duty not to pay our taxes, and that's historically proven. We were a tax haven at one point. The United States of America is where I live. And it's rather interesting to me that he would say that. Now, inside of the tax code, like 97% of the tax code is about how not to pay taxes. One of the coolest things to do is this. When you start your own business, like I've started a whole bunch of businesses, everything you do for that business, you can say, well, this is for my business, so I need to write it off on my taxes. So it becomes a tax write-off. It's a write-off, tax write-off. So when I decided that I was paying too much in groceries, I decided to make a spice. And it's Blackbeard Creek original seasoning. Blackbeard Creek seasoning, Blackbeard Creek spice. It's out there and it's delicious. And I put it on a whole bunch of things, and I take a picture of it, put it on the website, and it's at polyheart.com. You can go there, and it's at the very top. You can click on the hamburger button. You can go find it. But it is a trick, a tool to the IRS, because I'm not paying taxes on my groceries anymore. My income taxes now, I can defer all my grocery bills because I have a spice. Now, I've made money with my spices, but I don't plan on making $1 zillion. I don't think I could. But I'm losing money, maybe. Right now, I'm still losing money. And that's okay, because now my taxes are funneling through my groceries, which I have receipts for all my groceries, so those are now being tax deferred as a way to not pay taxes. So that is like just one strange thing. I'm like, you need to write a book. Now, if I write a fiction book, guess what happens? Well, everything that I purchase that's about fiction or stories, like a movie or a book, every time I go to the movies, I can take that ticket, and it's not tax deductible because I'm a writer. Aha. Okay. If you create one comic book and you sell it on Etsy, suddenly all the comic books that you buy are now tax deductible. Everything to do with plot, with storyboarding, with character development, with world building, every role-playing game book that you buy now becomes tax deductible. And that's amazing. So I would say that over the course of your life, if you purchase this book when it comes out, I'm not done yet, still working on it. When this book comes out, if you purchase this book and you already have written a book, then it becomes tax deductible. But even if you don't, even if you are just a guy living with his girlfriend who has 2 paychecks for the household income, and all of your money that you make from the job it just disappears. You have more month left at the end of your paycheck than you have more paycheck left at the end of your month. If you're those people, if you're that person who can't understand how it all goes away, then this book is for you. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna give it away. I'm gonna give you more than you reckon for, because I'm not trying to sell this book to you. I would like to give this book to you, but if you want to purchase a physical copy of this book, I will not stop you. So I'm going to be continuing to make these videos. I'm going to tell you right now the 3 things, 3 different types of people in the world, and I'm going to tell you how they spend their money before I end this video. It's been almost an hour. We're at 50 minutes, and I appreciate your time and your investment in this video, and thank you for staying to the end. My website, again, is polyheart.com, P-A-U-L-Y-H-A-R-T, P-A-U-L-Y-H-A-R-T.com, and you can find all of my zany adventures there. There are 3 people in the world. Number 1, there's the rich. You call them wealthy, you call them uber elite, you call them whatever you want. They're the rich. And then there's the middle class. And then there's the poor. Now, there's a lot of different types of poor, but there's poor, middle class, and rich, basically. If you just break it down, basically, because these are their spending habits. These are how they spend money. How do the poor spend money? Well, if you want to be rich and not poor, you need to investigate how the rich spend their money, and you need to investigate how the poor spend their money. Start spending money like the rich people do, and stop spending money like poor people do, and quit being middle class. Quit being a pedestrian, and get on a rocket. The poor spend their money on perception of wealth. They spend their money on liabilities. They spend their money on fake wealth. The Germans have a saying, be more, seem less. So when we're more, we don't have to show it. I'm not going to go out and buy Gucci this and Bugatti that. And, I'm not going to go out and show off my bling. I don't need all that. I don't need all that drip. I don't need it. I don't need to show off what I'm not. When I get it and I have the ability to afford it, I might have a couple of those things, but I won't show it off even then. So the poor spend their money on liabilities only. The middle class spend their money on bills. They pay off their bills to get a better credit score. When they get that better credit score, then they get a better credit card. Get a better credit card, then you can have more credit, and you can continue to climb and climb. They have a little bit of assets and a little bit of liabilities. They have more liabilities than assets. They know how to get assets, but they have a couple of assets, and they think that's enough. They think that they can retire at 65 or 62 or whatever and be okay. And they can just work at Walmart as a greeter, or they can do a couple of things here and there to make some extra income, but they think that their tiny little assets are going to be it. Well, that's not going to be enough for anyone. Look at inflation. I mean, come on. So, here's the secret. How do the rich spend their money? Well, that's the trick. They don't spend their money. They invest all of their money. Now, we can't do that now. In the book, I show 3 or 4 different ways to start doing this. And it's not like Dave Ramsey. I'm not going to tell you to get out of debt, because debt's good if you know how to use debt. Rich people know how to use debt. The Bible says, owe no man anything. Well, I don't owe men anything, but I owe this company a little bit. So I'm not being anti-Christ here. I'm not going to be an anti-Christian. I'm not being anti-Jew. I'm not being anti-Islam. I'm just saying, hey, I do owe some companies some money, but I don't owe people anything. So the rich, they're going to purchase an asset. This asset creates wealth for them. So it becomes like almost a child. They call it their gold children. And then this, if I made $100, invested $100, and that $100 turned into, let's say, $30, this $30, then that asset can buy another asset. That $30 can create $5. The rich person spends the $5 instead of the 100 or the 50 or the 30 or whatever it is, the trickle-down effect. They're going to spend the great-grandchildren. They're going to spend the great-great-great-grandchildren. So whenever I feel like I need to go do something, I always tell myself, I want to go to the Caribbean, and I want to spend the week in the Caribbean. Well, I did. I took my wife there for our 10-year anniversary, and I didn't pay for it. My Bitcoin investment paid for it. It was great. I took her, and we had a fun time. But I didn't pay for it. I started buying investments. I didn't buy liabilities. I'm not going to go out and buy this, that, or the other. I'm going to buy an investment. So when you start understanding the 3 different types of people in the world, and maybe how you can stop being some of the lower 2 types of people in the world and start being one of the greater types of people in the world, then the sky, there's no limit. There's no limit except for the actual ceiling, the actual glass ceiling. Break it, baby, break it. Man, I'll tell you, I could go on and on for hours, but I'm going to quit. So the book is called Let Go of Being Stupid. I'm going to continue to make videos like this for you because you deserve it. Over the course of these videos, you're going to have the whole book. I'm going to give you the whole book for free, just free. Because if I can't, here's the thing: if I pump myself up in the mythos, the ethos, the social media, if I just pump myself up, and then when you met me, it was a letdown. When you meet me, it's a letdown. That means that my tales about me have become greater than the tales from me, right? So I want the opposite to be true. I want me giving you. I don't want there to be hype. That's all I'm trying to say. I confuse myself sometimes when I talk because I get so. I'm an introvert. someone better writer than I am a talker. Who knew? Yeah. Polyheart.com, Let Go of Being Stupid. You can buy my 80 other books on my website. They just go to Amazon. I've got 2 pen names, Polly Little Deer and Mr. Lee, children's stories and young adult stories. But for now, that is all we have. You guys have a good day, and I thank you, and have a good one. Bye-bye.